Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
In a small conference room, Zhou Zhou looked at the dark martial lord who had turned into minced meat in front of him and shook his head. I've already let you off, and even specially told all the subjects of Dark Martial City this good news. You brought this upon yourself. You can't blame me if you can't live, he said. Zhou Zhou did not touch the other party's corpse, directly extracted his loots from afar. His gaze landed only on the other party's Lord Talent Sphere and Lord Talent Crystal Fragment. Treasure name: Lord Talent Sphere, Dark Walker. Treasure grade: Epic tier. Treasure effect: after absorbing it, the Lord will have an Epic tier Lord Talent, Dark Walker. Treasure description: a Lord Talent Sphere purified by the Supreme Will. After absorbing it, you can obtain an Epic tier Lord Talent. Absorb this Lord Talent Sphere. Epic tier? Dark Walker. Is this the higher level talent of an extraordinary tier Lord Talent, Dark Martial Artist? Zhou Zhou clicked his tongue in wonder. Then, without hesitation, he directly absorbed this Lord Talent. The next second, the Epic tier Lord Talent Sphere immediately turned into countless purple light spots and surged into his glabella. Zhou Zhou closed his eyes. A moment later, he reopened his eyes again after some time. Then, he immediately opened his Lord's personal information. In his Lord Talent column, the Epic tier Lord Talent, Dark Walker, appeared. The 29th Lord Talent. I'm about to break through 30. Zhou Zhou nodded. Then, he opened the details of the talent. Lord Talent, Dark Walker, Walker, Epic tier. Dark Walker, a special Lord Talent. When the Scarlet Fog first descended on the High Continent, countless life forms accidentally entered the Scarlet Fog because they did not know the dangers of the Scarlet Fog. In the end, they were killed by the fog monsters hidden in the Scarlet Fog. In the face of the increasingly vast Scarlet Fog, the compressed living environment made the survival of normal life forms the most urgent problem. In this critical moment of life and death, a group of forerunners who were not afraid of death had created a special obscure class, Dark Walker, through countless explorations and sacrifices. The Dark Walkers were not powerful enough to destroy the Scarlet Fog, but they had mastered various strange methods to resist the corrosion of the Scarlet Fog. They used their power to protect the safety of normal life forms relying on these strange methods, when the powerful extraordinaires did not save them, greatly slowing down the speed at which normal life forms died. Later, when powerful extraordinaires appeared and protected them, the Dark Walkers were gradually forgotten by the world because they did not master supernatural powers and other drawbacks. Specific Talent Effect 1. Your territory has a Dark Walker class change statue. When a life form makes an oath to protect normal life forms in front of the class change statue, it can automatically become a Dark Walker and master all the methods of a Dark Walker. Specific Talent Effect 2. Black Membrane. Dark Walkers can activate a power called Black Membrane, causing a black membrane to appear around them, protecting them from the corrosion of the Scarlet Fog when they go out at night. Specific Talent Effect 3. Demon Vanquishing Powder. The Dark Walker has mastered a special potion-making method called Demon Vanquishing Powder. After encountering a fog monster and throwing the Demon Vanquishing Powder on the monster, it can eliminate the increase in strength obtained by the fog monster. Specific Talent Effect 4. Demon Concealment Ointment. The Dark Walker has mastered a special potion-making method called Demon Concealment Ointment. After applying the Demon Concealment Ointment on himself, when he encounters fog monsters, there is a high chance that the fog monsters will treat the living beings who use the Demon Concealment Ointment as members of the fog monsters camp, so that he will not be attacked by the fog monsters. Specific Talent Effect 5. Sacred Redemption Medicine. The Dark Walker has mastered a special potion-making method called the Sacred Redemption Medicine. After consuming the Sacred Redemption Medicine, there is a certain probability that a life form that had just turned into a fog monster not long ago could become a normal life form again. Lord Talent Notification 1. This class has been optimized by the Supreme Will, removing the disadvantage of changing into a Dark Walker. Lord Talent Notification 2. When the Dark Walker loses the will to protect normal life forms, he will automatically lose all the means of the Dark Walker. Lord Talent Notification 3. This class is a life profession. Any living being who has the ambition to protect normal life forms can work part-time. After Zhou Zhou read the details of this Lord Talent, his eyes widened. What did he see? There was actually a potion that could turn the fog monster back into a normal life form? The sacred redemption medicine? This effect was indeed worthy of its reputation as a sacred medicine. In comparison, the talent effect called black membrane seemed a little insignificant. One had to know that Zhou Zhou had come into contact with many important figures and obtained many bloodline inheritances ever since he arrived in the High Continent. In terms of knowledge and experience, he believed that even the clansmen from those great races might not be better than him. Even so, he had never heard of anyone researching a potion that could turn the fog monster into a normal life form. It was as if it was irreversible. Now, he actually saw such a magical method in a profession called the Dark Walker. Moreover, such a class had other magical methods to deal with the fog monsters. Black membrane, demon vanquishing powder, demon concealment ointment. From the looks of it, any one of them was enough to shock all the living beings in the High Continent. At the thought of this, Zhou Zhou was even more puzzled. How could such a useful class decline? He thought, that shouldn't be the case since the myriad worlds were affected by the Crimson Overlord's scarlet fog. This profession should be able to shine in such an environment. He thought for a moment and decided to look for the Dark Walker's professional statue first. When Zhou Zhou thought of this, he immediately got Wanya to use the teleportation array to return to the ancient teleportation array from before. Then, at full speed, they returned to the capital in the blink of an eye. The spatial teleportation array of the Mystic Heaven Immortal Alliance headquarters should be completed tomorrow. At that time, it won't be so troublesome to go back and forth. Zhou Zhou thought. Actually, it was not very troublesome. Flying back and forth was a matter of the blink of an eye with the galaxy. However, he only had 10 galaxy after all. He would definitely use them all in war. How could he use them for normal transportation? Dragon Lady Lord, Military Industry Lord, and Undead Lord have to arrange teleportation arrays as well. Even though these three people have submitted to me, they should still have some ambition in their hearts. Open the teleportation array and let them see the difference. Perhaps we can eliminate their ambitions and make them completely loyal. If we open the teleportation array, they will have some thoughts that they shouldn't have. Then I'll find out in time. Zhou Zhou's expression was dark. Please don't give him a reason to attack. Other than the Military Industry Lord, the Dragon Lady Lord and the Undead Lord both had epic tier Lord talents. Once he dealt with these two people, with the enhancement of his loots, they could directly become 2 legendary tier Lord talents. While he did not lack 2 legendary tier Lord talents, if it was offered to him, he would not refuse. However, if they were willing to follow him obediently, he was also willing to accept them. They were talents who had relied on their own strength to reach this level after all. They all had extremely strong leadership and organizational ability. Moreover, Zhou Zhou valued talents. Especially as his territory increased, he needed more and more such talents with strong organizational and leadership abilities. As for Dragon Lady Lord and the others, they were undoubtedly such top talents. Or rather, every lord of all races was either a talented person or a worker with experience from the relevant organizations. It was just that the Dragon Lady Lord and the others were the best among them. Zhou Zhou called Atli over and asked her to find the professional statue of the Dark Walker. Half an hour later, Atli came back. Your Majesty, we've found it, Atli said respectfully. Take me there. Zhou Zhou stood up. Yes, Your Majesty. Then, the two of them left the place one after another. A moment later, Zhou Zhou stood in front of a statue. This statue was only as tall as a person. He wore a black robe and carried a medicine basket on his back. He held a walking stick in his hand and walked forward. He looked ordinary and did not feel anything special. This is the Dark Walker's class advancement statue? Zhou Zhou looked at the statue in disbelief. It was a talent creation with an epic tier Lord talent after all. Why did it look worse than a statue at a roadside stall? Moreover, this statue appeared in a very remote place. It was as if it was afraid that others would notice it. He didn't think too much about it and thought about the class change. Determined to protect normal life forms. Zhou Zhou thought for a moment, and his expression gradually turned solemn. I, Zhou Zhou, was originally just one of the many living beings. Of course I won't forget my roots. I will always abide by the will of the Dark Walker and protect my subjects, he said. He definitely loved his subject and would even think of ways to nurture them. They could spend as much manpower, financial resources, and material resources as they wanted. However, for those who resented him, hated him, and even wanted to destroy him, why should he care if the other party was dead or alive? After he finished speaking, he quietly looked at the statue of the Dark Walker. 10 seconds later, a black light flew out of the statue of the Dark Walker and flew towards Zhou Zhou. Zhou Zhou endured it and did not move, allowing the black light to fly into his glabella. He felt some class inheritance information appear in his mind. This included the origins of the Dark Walkers, history, famous professionals, achievement, and the most important method of creating the black membrane, demon vanquishing powder, demon concealment ointment, and sacred redemption medicine. Soon, Zhou Zhou had completely absorbed all the inheritance of this class. After he came back to his senses, he could not help but sigh faintly. There are so few class inheritances. Blacksmiths have more skills than you. While that was true, Zhou Zhou, who had already become a Dark Walker and received the inheritance of the Dark Walker, already knew why there were so few inheritances of this class. It was simple, it was just that its development time was too short. Moreover, the disadvantages of its previous class also made very few people willing to take on this profession. The first Dark Walker developed the special power of the black membrane, which ignores the corrosion of the scarlet fog, by devouring the corpse of the fog monster and supplementing it with some digestive secret medicine. But it's not without a price. The price was, Dark Walkers who have mastered the black membrane technique will lose control of their bodies as the number of times they use the black membrane increases. They will become uglier and uglier, less and less like ordinary life forms, more and more like fog monsters. In the end, they would almost 100% become a new fog monster. That's exactly why every Dark Walker would usually choose to hide their figure in a black robe to prevent others from seeing their abnormality. When one is about to lose control of their consciousness and become a fog monster, the Dark Walker will choose to leave the gathering place of life forms and head to the final destination alone. Then, he will commit suicide and end his life. The fate of every Dark Walker is almost always this tragic. This is the price of obtaining the power of the fog. That's why even the Dark Walker himself is unwilling to pass down this profession. In addition, after the Dark Walkers saw that the extraordinaires had taken action and protected the living beings of the High Continent, they felt that their class was redundant, so they were even more unwilling to leave legacies behind for their class. Hence, in less than 100 years, this profession disappeared. Zhou Zhou fell silent. Only now did he know the weight of the Dark Walker profession. This profession had clearly saved countless life forms when it was born. However, because of this act of saving life forms, they bore the curse of fate. In the end, they all embarked on self-destruction, not even leaving their names behind. As for why they did not leave behind the recipes for the demon vanquishing powder, demon concealment ointment, and sacred redemption medicine when they self-destructed, Zhou Zhou only found out after becoming a Dark Walker. This was because the materials for making the demon vanquishing powder, demon concealment ointment, and sacred redemption medicine all required a little bit of the Dark Walker's own blood as the medicinal catalyst. Only then could these three divine medicines be effective. Otherwise, their effects were no different from poison. Even when using these three potions, he needed the Dark Walker to activate them with the power of the black membrane. Otherwise, he would not be able to use these three potions. It was precisely because of these two reasons that the Dark Walker did not leave behind the formulas for the three potions. Or rather, they were left behind, but no one could discover their value, and in the end, they gradually declined. Zhou Zhou thought for a moment and took out a piece of paper. Then, he wrote down all the herbs needed for the potions and handed it to Atli. Atli took it and looked at it. She realized that the medicinal herbs inside were all unqualified medicinal herbs. What did it mean to be unqualified? They were ordinary herbs that were even inferior to black iron tier herbs. A medicinal herb of this level could be said that it was everywhere and was not valuable at all in an extraordinary place like the high continent. Zhou Zhou found it hard to imagine. Back then, the first batch of Dark Walkers had relied on these unorthodox herbs to bring hope to the living beings who had suffered the Scarlet Fog disaster for the first time. Get Linger to gather all the medicinal herbs here. Collect 10 billion sets first. Inform the Alchemist Guild, the pharmacists, doctors, and other classes in the territory. They can even be normal subjects. From now on, do your best to make this potion. These potions were originally made by ordinary people after research. With a little familiarity with his territory's subjects, he could easily make them. 1. You should also start building the corresponding pharmaceutical factory. Once it's completed, start working immediately. All the expenses mentioned above will be handled by the kingdom. Zhou Zhou said, "Yes, Your Majesty." The gentle voice that was everywhere appeared in Zhou Zhou's mind. Lastly, get all the soldiers and subjects in the territory to come here and accept the profession inheritance of the Dark Walker. That's all for now. Zhou Zhou said, "Yes, Your Majesty. I'll do it right away," Atli said respectfully. Zhou Zhou nodded. The current Dark Walker class no longer had the disadvantages of the class that they had when they were just developed. Naturally, he could allow all subjects to accept his class inheritance. Zhou Zhou felt that the history of the Dark Walker should not be forgotten by the world. He would let the subjects of his territory remember them first. After Atli left, Zhou Zhou raised his hands and clenched his fists slightly. The next second, as his power erupted, wisps of black light appeared on the surface of his body, then formed a thin black membrane on his body. So this is the black membrane? Indeed, I don't feel any supernatural power augmenting this black membrane. This black membrane can only give life forms the ability to resist the corrosion of the scarlet fog. It's like wearing clothes-fitting soft armor. Zhou Zhou muttered to himself. The class characteristics of this Dark Walker were somewhat similar to the class characteristics of a demon hunter. They could obtain the ability to protect themselves from their enemies, and their lifespans were extremely long. However, demon hunters could have extraordinary power and form very quickly. This was not something that Dark Walkers could compare to. Previously, Zhou Zhou also wanted to obtain a demon hunter class. With his current fighting god full-time Master 6, it was naturally not a problem for him to have 6 additional classes. However, the grade of the demon bloodline that Gerton, the demon hunter subject, could provide him with was too low. The best demon bloodline was only at the extraordinary tier level. Zhou Zhou now had a god spirit level subordinate. His ambition naturally became higher. In his eyes, no matter what, only a low-tier deity-level demon bloodline was worthy of his attention. The low-level demon bloodline ability was almost useless to him, who only used law skills when fighting now. Therefore, Zhou Zhou wanted to make a trip to the front lines of the Abyss through the Night Temple in the future when he had the time. He wanted to send his god spirits to hunt for a god-tier demon bloodline so that it could become his first demon bloodline power as a demon hunter class. However, because he had been too busy recently, this matter had been delayed until now. I'll deal with the demon hunter class after I'm done with my work, Zhou Zhou thought. There was so much he needed to do now, like solving the refined flame Scarlet Legion, completing the hidden mission of the New Wind Demon Kingdom, searching for the lost treasures of the New Wind Demon Kingdom, and the current activity of the King of 10,000 Kings. Everything else was also important, so he could only put aside the matter of the demon hunter class. Zhou Zhou was not idle either. He found Wu Tu and asked him to give the order for the soldiers to rest for an hour before leading the soldiers to help Bai Yun, Wu Xin, and the others to protect the 450 million new recruits and increase their strength. Then, Zhou Zhou spent 3 normal questions to find out the location of the headquarters of the Dragon Lady Alliance, the Undead Alliance, and the Military and Industrial Alliance through the Bodhi Supreme. That's it. I won't let you ask questions on credit again. Pay off the debt you owe first. Bodhi Supreme could no longer hold it in facing Zhou Zhou's repeated debts. After shouting, it stopped talking. Zhou Zhou poked the other party twice before it actually turned invisible and disappeared. We'll meet again when you pay your debts, Humph. After Bodhi Supreme finished speaking, it really did not respond to Zhou Zhou. Zhou Zhou was helpless. In that case, then he would probably not see this big brother for 6 to 7 days. Looks like I'll have to settle the debt slowly first. Zhou Zhou lamented. Fortunately, there was nothing important to ask now. Otherwise, it would really be a little troublesome. Then, he found Suan. Suan, I have a quest for you. You and Vicky lead the array masters of the Night Empire, and some people needed to set up the array. Go to the Dragon Lady Lord's Dragon Blood Alliance headquarters, the Undead Lord's Undead Alliance headquarters, and the Military Industry Lord's Military Engineering Alliance headquarters, and build a two-way teleportation array led by the Blazing Sun Kingdom at their headquarters. There's no need to pay attention to anything else other than that the right to open and close the teleportation portal has to be in our own hands when building the two-way teleportation array. Also, when you return, remember to bring back 1/3 of the kingdom's resources from the Dragon Lady Lord, the Undead Lord, and the Mystic Heaven Lord. This is a map of the locations of the 3 headquarters. Take a galaxy and return quickly. Zhou Zhou handed him the map. Yes, Your Majesty, Suan said respectfully, then turned around and left without any hesitation. After everyone left, Zhou Zhou suddenly felt lighter. This was the advantage of having loyal and capable subordinates. There was no need for him to do anything himself. He could just hand it over to his subordinates. The Lord himself could be a hands-off boss and directly accept the results of the capable people's work. Relaxed, Zhou Zhou first went to the Alchemist Union, then to the shelter of the Goddess of Life, and then to other places in the territory. He chatted with the subjects for a while and ate barbecue at a roadside stall. Then, he patted his stomach and returned to the advanced grade Lord's paradise in satisfaction. In an exclusive cultivation room, Zhou Zhou sat cross-legged on a mat, preparing to continue comprehending the Lord talent, Hand of Wealth. However, before that, he looked at the void in front of him and said helplessly, Bodhi Supreme, I need your help to comprehend the Lord's laws. The air was silent for a while then. The Bodhi Supreme suddenly appeared in his right hand. Thank you. Zhou Zhou smiled and touched the black gold seed. Then, he used it to enter a state of self-absorption and began to comprehend the Hand of Wealth. At the same time, in the Insect Tribe universe, Planet Pandora, D*MN Lord of the Blazing Sun. A sharp whistle came from the insectoid throne at the highest point of the planet. The entire planet's surface shook. Then, they looked in the direction of their queen in fear, not knowing why their queen was angry. On top of a ferocious royal clan formed from stone sculptures of insectoids, a beautiful woman in a dark purple sexy dress with a dark purple crown on her head and a pair of dark purple narrow eyes was angrily grabbing the handle of her throne, looking like she wanted to crush it. She was the Insect Lord. Ever since she began to use her legendary Tier Lord talent, genetic map, she had worked hard to improve the genes of the Zergs under her command and increase her Lord power. At the same time, she had also created a human body for herself. It was the human body in front of them. This human body was modeled after her original body on Earth. After she succeeded in creating it, she even gave up her original insectoid body and used this human body as her main body. She was once a beautiful female foreign noble. She knew that the insectoids were very powerful. However, she still could not accept the ugly appearance of the insect race. Therefore, she would rather give up her strength and return to her human body. Anyway, as a lord, she did not need to personally take action and fight on the battlefield. Therefore, she actually did not have much obsession with whether her main body was strong or not. But now, the Insect Lord felt that she had a great obsession with vengeance on Zhou Zhou. More than 8 million of my insect race members were actually wiped out by you. All my insectoid subordinates have been destroyed by you. King of the Blazing Sun, you really deserve to die. The Insect Lord gritted her teeth in hatred. After this battle, her lord's faction could be said to have suffered a huge blow. She might even lose her status as the insect god on the world channel. Actually, she was already in danger. This was because before the King of the Blazing Sun left, he actually left a sentence on the world channel. The Lord of the Blazing Sun was here. which was ridiculous and childish in her eyes. How dare you write this? Do you think you're Sun Wukong? However, it was these ridiculous words that dealt her an even greater blow. This was because the other party could clearly say things like, your insect god is just, I've already easily defeated her, on the world channel that could deal a greater blow to morale. However, he did not say anything. He only left behind a sentence, the Lord of the Blazing Sun is here. What did this mean? This meant that in the eyes of the Lord of the Blazing Sun, defeating her was not as interesting as leaving a sentence on the world channel, the Lord of the Blazing Sun is here. This was simply a huge insult to the insect lord, who had always had a lot of pride. And most importantly, a lord of the Zerg race saw and filmed the entire process of the King of the Blazing Sun defeating her from a hidden angle. It even sent it to the World Channel. As soon as this video was released, all the Zerg lords started doubting the strength of the Insect Lord. Is this really the strongest lord in their insect tribe universe? Why does she look so weak in front of the King of the Blazing Sun? She was actually completely wiped out after fighting for a while. This result made many on their world channel stop addressing her as the insect god other than a small number of insect lords, fanatical fanlords, and the lord members of the Insect God Alliance. This great honor came because of her tyrannical strength. In the end, she also lost it because of her strength. The insect lord felt very aggrieved. However, she could not say anything to refute the huge difference in strength between the King of the Blazing Sun and her. The King of the Blazing Sun was too strong. While it was only one attack, what was exposed was also so strong that it made her feel a little desperate. She even felt that even if she could join forces with the Dragon Godlord and the two legendary tier lord talents to fight against the King of the Blazing Sun together, the chances of winning were very slim. Everyone clearly started at the same point. Why is the difference so big? The Insect Lord was very confused and afraid. She was afraid that the King of the Blazing Sun would find her again and kill her. With the King of the Blazing Sun's strength, it was very simple to do this. She was already severely injured and only had some Zerg cubs that could not form any reasonable combat strength under her command after all. If the King of the Blazing Sun came knocking on her door, she would have no room to resist. Even though there was still a large amount of genetic resources stored in her treasure vault that could be used to nurture newborn Zerg cubs and accelerate their growth to form combat strength, this would also take a lot of time. What she lacked the most now was time. She had no choice, so she did not even reply to the doubts about her on the World Channel. Instead, she focused on hiding here to recover her strength. At the same time, she silently prayed that the King of the Blazing Sun would not come over. She no longer cared about reputation and only wanted to survive now. As for the Dragon Godlord, she had also asked him for help. However, when the other party heard that the King of the Blazing Sun could actually come to her universe, he kept refusing to come, saying that he needed time to reorganize the dragon race. How could the Insect Lord not tell that the other party was afraid? He was afraid that he would be implicated and killed if he went over. But she had no choice and could only curse in her heart that the other party was a coward. At the same time, in the Night Empire, Yuling Palace, Princess Yuling was sitting on an exquisite throne, listening to the reports of the generals below. You're saying that there's a huge mysterious force leading nearly 500 million soldiers to eliminate those fog monster forces around the territory of our Night Empire? She asked in surprise after hearing the other party's report. Which faction is it? What else did they do other than clearing out the forces of the fog monsters? Yuling immediately asked. Nothing else other than clearing the fog monsters. As for which faction it is, I didn't dare to send troops forward to ask because the other party is protected by an expert. However, from the standard military uniforms on them, they seem to be from the Blazing Sun Kingdom. The general also looked hesitant towards the end. He really did not believe that a beginner Kingdom Lord faction that had just established a kingdom could send so many soldiers out to fight. What did it mean to have more than 500 million soldiers? That was triple the number of soldiers of their Night Empire. It was the size of ordinary intermediate grade empires. However, this was the information obtained by the scouts. He could not lie. Blazing Sun Kingdom. Princess Yuling looked confused. Her first thought was, could some veteran Empire-level Lord faction have disguised themselves as soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom and secretly come over to help them? She dismissed this idea in no time. Who would do something so thankless, not asking for anything in return, to appear in a world like the High Continent where war was frequent? Have the soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom come to Whisper City today? Princess Yuling thought for a moment and asked.
Yes.
The other party also piloted a Machina race spaceship suspected to be at the God Spirit tier. And according to the scouts, that huge and magnificent God Spirit tier spaceship also exists among the nearly 500 million soldiers. The general said, "Is there anything else worth noting?" Yuling's eyes flickered as she asked. Also, according to the scouts' report, about 90% of those soldiers seem to be new recruits. Those human soldiers are also specially looking for the weak Scarlet Fog monster faction to attack. Rather than saying that they're clearing the forces of the fog monsters, it's more like they're training their troops. The general voiced his guess. Princess Yuling pondered for a long time and looked at the general. Order our soldiers to prepare for battle. At the same time, send troops to come into contact with this faction. If the other party is really from the Blazing Sun Kingdom, make a request to support them. Since we're allies, how can we let the other party fight alone? If the other party is not from the Blazing Sun Kingdom or his answer is unclear, immediately retreat to the border fortress and prepare to defend against the enemy. Princess Yuling's expression was solemn. If this group of people was really allies, then the crisis of their Night Empire should be easily resolved. But if these people were enemies with ulterior motives, Princess Yuling's thoughts went wild. Then the Night Empire will probably be destroyed today. However, she believed in the former more. If the other party was really hostile, why would they beat around the bush with their terrifying military strength? If they attacked directly, their Night Empire would definitely not be able to stop them as long as they were not stingy with the lives of the recruits. 3 hours later, in the Blazing Sun Kingdom, Suin and Vicky returned with the resources of the 3 kingdoms. They handed the resource list to Zhou Zhou. When Zhou Zhou saw the list, he could not help but chuckle. The Dragon Lady Lord, the Undead Lord, and the Mystic Heaven Lord seemed to have discussed it halfway. Each of them handed over a third of the kingdom's wealth, which was 500 legendary tier mist cores. It was exactly the same as the 1/3 of the kingdom's wealth that the military industry lord had paid previously. We've discussed this in advance. Zhou Zhou smacked his lips. Zhou Zhou did not mind. 500 legendary tier mist cores were about a third of the wealth of an ordinary beginner kingdom. It was just that they did not want to suffer a loss. There was no need to pursue it too much. Other than the 500 legendary tier mist cores, the Dragon Lady Lord also sent over 100 drakes with dragon bloodline according to the previous transaction conditions. Their strength ranged from green bronze tier elementary grade to white silver tier advanced grade. The Undead Lord also sent over a yellow gold tier advanced grade pure-blooded bone dragon according to the transaction conditions. As for the Mystic Heaven Lord, he had already begun to prepare to establish a branch of the Black Heaven sect in the Blazing Sun Kingdom and set up an immortal sect department to test the spiritual roots of the Blazing Sun Kingdom subjects. The construction could officially begin when the two-way teleportation array was officially built tomorrow. The value of the Kingdom token is very tempting to the current Lord of the Cerulean planet. I'll get a few more Kingdom tokens later. There are many lords with potential in the Cerulean planet. If I take this opportunity to sell the Kingdom token, I can completely obtain a large number of rare resources and the support of a large number of lords with potential. Zhou Zhou thought. At this rate, while he might not be able to control all the lords of the Cerulean planet in the future, he could at least control more than 90% of the lords of the Cerulean planet. As for the mist cores, he did not care too much. A moment later, in a quiet room, Zhou Zhou closed his eyes and sat cross-legged on the futon to adjust his mental state. A moment later, he opened his eyes, and a glint of hidden feeling flashed across them. I have time now. It's time to try the Eye of the Heaven's Anger secret law. Zhou Zhou took a deep breath and formed a hand seal called the Eye of the Heaven's Anger in the Eye of the Heaven's Anger secret law with both hands. After the hand seal was formed, Zhou Zhou immediately felt that his soul seemed to be attracted by a gentle force and was about to fly towards the unknown netherworld. He knew that this was a normal feeling when using the eye of the heaven's anger, so he did not resist and let this power guide his soul to the unknown land. During the flight, Zhou Zhou's panic, suspicion, fear, curiosity, and other emotions towards the unknown slowly disappeared. He was like a living being with a god's perspective. He calmly and coldly felt his soul and quietly waited for it to reach the end. After an unknown period of time, Zhou Zhou's soul finally arrived at its destination. It was pitch black here, yet it also seemed to contain countless colors. This place was chaotic. It was as if it had already derived all things. This place was extremely quiet. It was as if countless voices were shouting and chanting. All kinds of conflicting and harmonious strange feelings filled Zhou Zhou's soul consciousness. At first, Zhou Zhou felt that his soul was about to be torn apart and eaten by this strange feeling. But gradually, Zhou Zhou felt himself calm down. Like the origin of laws, he examined the world without emotion. And then, he discovered the territory of the blazing Sun Kingdom from his perspective. His consciousness extended to the surroundings of the blazing Sun Kingdom. He also saw the strength of the other kingdoms, Lord factions, and Scarlet Fog. When he saw the Scarlet Fog faction, he suddenly felt a faint discomfort. When the refined flames Scarlet Legion appeared in his perspective, especially when he saw the Legion commander of the refined flames Scarlet Legion, the uncomfortable feeling in his heart immediately soared. It was as if there was a consciousness in his heart telling him to destroy it. As long as they destroyed the other party, the High Continent would be protected, repaired, and corrected. It would become better. Zhou Zhou suddenly understood. There was an enemy in the refined flame Scarlet Legion that even the Supreme will wanted to eliminate. As long as he destroyed him, he could obtain a large number of faction points in this King of 10,000 Kings event. He could even unlock an achievement. After Zhou Zhou found out about this, he was not too affected. Instead, he continued to explore into the distance. He could feel it. The range he could detect through the eye of the heaven's anger was definitely more than this. After more than 4 hours, Zhou Zhou's soul returned from the netherworld and entered his body again. His eyes were shockingly bright. It was not just because he had checked a total of 5 important fog monsters that the Supreme will wanted to eliminate during the use of the Eye of the Heaven's anger. More importantly, when he observed the High Continent from the perspective of the Supreme Will, he comprehended the meaning of the Lord Law. Even though this meaning did not allow him to master any powerful Lord talent again, it made him understand why the Goddess of Life had said last time that his path was right, but his heart had gone the wrong way. Lord's Law, also known as the Supreme Law, Emperor's Law, God's Law, Control Law, Control Law. I was so stupid. Why must I master the Hand of Wealth completely when I comprehend it? This way, even if I completely master the Lord's Law represented by the Hand of Wealth, won't the path I take as a God spirit become a path to steal money? Isn't this like losing a watermelon and picking up a sesame seed? No matter what kind of Lord Law I comprehend, what I want to master in the end should be the Supreme Law, Great Tao of the Lord Law, not a part of it. Control, that's the key. I don't need to master the Lord Law behind every Lord talent. I just need to learn how to use these Lord Laws. Zhou Zhou looked excited. This was like solving a math problem. Students did not need to understand how the mathematical formula for solving the problem came about. He could still solve the problem as long as he knew how to use the mathematical formula rationally. Of course, even though that was the case. However, it did not mean that Zhou Zhou could not learn the incomplete Lord Law represented by the low-level Lord talent. This was because he was like a child who had just entered kindergarten when it came to the Lord Law. Even if he was given a lot of mathematical formulas, he would not be able to solve a high school mathematics problem. Not to mention the world problem. The current Zhou Zhou needed to start with the incomplete Lord Law behind the low-level Lord talent and slowly comprehend the mysteries of the Lord Law. After laying the foundation, he could better comprehend the more profound Lord Law and even control the entire Lord Law in the future. At the thought of this, Zhou Zhou immediately took out the Bodhi Supreme and activated the Supreme Eye. He began to comprehend the incomplete Lord Law represented by the black iron tier Lord Talent, Hand of Wealth. A moment later, Zhou Zhou, who was comprehending the Lord's Law, looked delighted. He did not know if it was because his heart was in the right place, but when he comprehended the Lord's Law again, he realized that his speed of comprehending the Lord's Law was more than 10 times faster than yesterday. In Zhou Zhou's eyes, comprehending the Lord Law represented by this Hand of Wealth Lord Talent was as easy as eating and drinking. Perhaps I can comprehend higher-level Lord Talents? Zhou Zhou thought arrogantly. Then, he quickly calmed down. Let's completely comprehend the incomplete Lord Law behind the Hand of Wealth first. Zhou Zhou was very stable. Be it being a lord or comprehending the laws, in any case, he was only at the epic tier intermediate grade now. He would only touch the threshold of becoming a god when he reached the legendary tier advanced grade, so there was no need for him to be anxious. Time passed slowly. Zhou Zhou was still immersed in comprehending the Lord's Law and could not extricate himself. This feeling of suddenly discovering that he was a good seedling really made him unable to stop after all. However, things didn't go as planned. Your Majesty, the refined Flames Scarlet Legion has already advanced about 1,000 kilometers away from the border of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Atli walked in and reported respectfully to Zhou Zhou. Zhou Zhou suddenly opened his eyes. Zhou Zhou looked at Bai Yun. How's the increase in the strength of the recruits? He asked. All of them have been upgraded to white-silver tier. Some with outstanding potential have even reached the yellow-gold tier. Bai Yun replied respectfully. A total of 450 million black iron tier elementary grade recruits had all advanced to the white-silver tier or even yellow-gold tier after all. In the eyes of others, this was probably a fantasy. However, with the help of the epic tier Lord Talent, War Master God, this matter became possible. Zhou Zhou nodded calmly. Even though white-silver tier and yellow-gold tier soldiers were still considered middle and lower-level combatants in the upcoming war. With the enhancement of equipment, skills, and military formations, it was enough for them to play their role in war. Come on. Prepare for battle. Zhou Zhou stood up and walked out of the advanced grade Lord's Paradise with Bai Yun. A moment later, about 900 kilometers away from the Blazing Sun Kingdom, Zhou Zhou and the others were riding a galaxy and stopping 10,000 meters in the sky. They were looking at the refined Flame Scarlet Legion below through virtual external mode. Zhou Zhou looked at it for a while before turning to look at Heros and Zaiwu. Gentlemen, did you encounter any accidents today? He asked. Haha, what accidents can we encounter with this galaxy around? They did fly here and want to destroy your Apocalypse Satellite 9, but they won't be able to do anything to us as long as we put the Apocalypse Satellite into the galaxy and fly away. We can only let your Apocalypse Satellite 9 continuously fire lasers at their army soldiers, injuring or even killing experts below the God Spirit level. Not only are we not injured at all after a day, the other party lost at least 100 legendary tier experts. As for the other fog monsters below the epic tier, more than 1,000 of them died. Heros laughed loudly. He still felt emotional when he said this. He did not expect the 10 Apocalypse Satellite 9 to be able to kill so many powerful fog monsters in just a day. Zhou Zhou smiled and nodded. As expected of the secret weapon given to him by the ultimate Lord Zhou Zhou, it did not disappoint him. In the end, he took a deep breath and looked at everyone solemnly. Everyone, prepare to fight. He said solemnly. Yes, Your Majesty. Everyone responded in unison. Your Majesty, do you have any means to deal with them? I'm talking about those Scarlet God Spirits. According to my observations throughout the day, there should be 7 Scarlet God Spirits among them. Moreover, there are 2 high-tier deity-level God Spirits, 2 mid-tier deity-level God Spirits, and 3 low-tier God Spirits. It's not scary for them to fight alone, but if they attack together, I'm afraid no God Spirit among us can withstand their joint offensive. Heros looked at Zhou Zhou and said solemnly. In today's battle with the refined Flame Scarlet Legion, they already had an absolute advantage in terms of normal soldiers. However, in terms of God Spirit-level combat strength, they occupied a considerable disadvantage. After all, Other than Zhou Zhou and him, there were only 3 god spirits on their side, including the local god spirit of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, Lady Iceflower, Vicky. On the other hand, there were a total of 7 scarlet god spirits, and there were many high-level god spirits among them. To be honest, this difference was a little big. If they could not deal with the enemy's scarlet god spirit combat strength, even if they could win this battle, the final outcome would probably be a tragic victory. Heras also reminded him kindly. Zhou Zhou naturally understood what he meant. He nodded and said seriously, "Don't worry, I have my own way of dealing with them. If I really can't win, I'll ask those powerful factions to send god spirits to help. The Elven Empire, the Night Temple, and even the Night Empire that could not protect themselves." Zhou Zhou was confident that he could invite god spirit-level allies from them to help. However, that was what he returned to do when he encountered a desperate situation. He wanted to see the limits of his soldiers now. Zhou Wu's eyes were dark and did not speak. Since His Majesty the General was so confident, there was no need to mention anything else. Then, they did not waste any time. Zhou Zhou first asked Wen Ye to land the galaxy on the ground. Then, he released all 500 million soldiers from the galaxy and began to arrange their formation. At the same time, at the refined flame Scarlet Legion, in the middle of the army, a scarlet god spirit that was more than 10 meters tall and covered in a layer of golden-brown lava armor, had a cow-headed helmet on his head and carried a huge void blade on his back, was sitting on a mighty mount that had the divinity of a rhinoceros. He was the Legion commander of the Scarlet Legion, Gerard. He was one of the 2 high-tier deity levels who had fought Heras previously. At this moment, his expression was dark, as if he was in a very bad mood. What to do? No one would be in a good mood after being continuously attacked by the lasers in the sky for an entire day, causing more than 100 legendary tier Scarlet Fog experts and more than 1,000 experts below the epic tier to die. In addition, as the Legion commander of the Scarlet Legion, now that he had encountered such a thing, this matter would definitely become a small flaw in his expedition even if he conquered the entire Blazing Sun Kingdom. Gerard had the personality of a perfectionist. Therefore, he was already extremely dissatisfied and angry that he had been ambushed for a day. If not for the fact that you have that ridiculously fast Machina race spaceship, how could I let you launch a sneak attack so freely in the sky? If you have the ability, give up the spaceship and come down to fight. Gerard felt very aggrieved. They were clearly stronger than the other party. However, because the other party ran quickly, his side was completely in a situation of being beaten up. He had conquered countless enemy kingdoms for the Fey du Scarlet Empire. This was the first time in so many years that he had suffered so much grievance. The key was that there was no way to counterattack. This was because the refined Flame Scarlet Legion and the Fey du Scarlet Empire behind them had indeed not developed any super powerful spaceship technology as a pure demon empire. Not every Lord faction developed so comprehensively like the Blazing Sun Kingdom. The refined Flame Scarlet Legion was a classic combat army. The main way for the army to increase the combat strength of the army was to kill more enemies and absorb more promotion energy to constantly increase their strength realm. Other than that, it would increase enhancement from time to time in terms of armors and weapons. There was almost nothing else that could increase the combat strength of the army. For example, a spaceship. Damn the Blazing Sun Kingdom. I will definitely kill all the subjects of the Blazing Sun Kingdom after we arrive. Gerard gritted his teeth. At this moment, an extraordinary tier Void Spirit Scout teleported over and arrived in front of him. Lord Legion Commander. A large army suddenly appeared ahead. It should be an army from the Blazing Sun Kingdom from the way they are armed. It reported. Gerard was stunned. Then, he immediately laughed softly with a ferocious expression. Good, very good. I knew they wouldn't just stand there and wait for death. It's even better since you dare to leave the city to fight. It'll save them from using the advantage of the city wall to block our offensive. All troops, listen up. Speed up. The soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom are waiting for us to slaughter them. We can return to find the king and the Crimson Overlord to receive the rewards once we kill these d***men human brats. he shouted angrily. His voice spread throughout the entire refined flame Scarlet Legion. Nearly 75% of the soldiers of the refined flame Scarlet Legion were excited. They raised their weapons with ferocious expressions and kept shouting. At the same time, they increased their speed and quickly advanced in the direction of the Blazing Sun army. The eyes of the remaining refined flame Scarlet Legion flickered. They hid their abnormalities and quickly advanced towards the Blazing Sun Kingdom's army like the other soldiers. On the other side, when the scout in front of Gerard heard that the Legion commander had already ordered an offensive, he immediately said, "Legion commander, I'm not done yet. Is there any other information?" Gerard, who had originally planned to fly to the front, frowned and looked at it. He was about to be the first to rush to the other party soldiers, pluck the king of the Blazing Sun's head, and obtain the chief credit for this battle. This way, he might be able to obtain more rewards from the Crimson Overlord. Reporting to the Legion commander, they had more than 500 million troops. The scout immediately reported. However, the other party soldiers are a little strange. It said in a low voice. More than 400 million of them seem to be new recruits. The strongest are only at the white-silver tier and yellow-gold tier. Only the remaining tens of millions of soldiers are equivalent to the level of our army, but there aren't many God Spirit-level enemies. When Gerard heard the other party say that the army of the Blazing Sun Kingdom had more than 500 million soldiers, he was shocked. However, when he heard the latter half of the sentence, he thought for a moment before laughing out loud. Then the king of the Blazing Sun must have known that he was about to face a calamity, so he sent all the subjects in his country as soldiers. Where would he get so many soldiers otherwise? Don't worry about it. These soldiers who were pulled up at the last minute are militias at most. They don't have much combat strength. They're just useless in front of the elite soldiers of our refined flame Scarlet Legion, Gerard said calmly. In addition, what made he more confident was there were clearly many more Scarlet God Spirits on their side than the other party. God Spirits were existences that could play a huge role in war. Therefore, even if the other party had many soldiers, firstly, their combat strength was not high, and secondly, they were protected by the God Spirits, so he was actually not too worried. Yes, Legion Commander. The Void Spirit Scout did not say anything else and retreated silently. Seeing this, Gerard rode his mount into the sky and led the refined flame Scarlet Legion towards the soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. A moment later, the two armies arrived less than 50 kilometers away from each other. Both sides were soldiers made up of extraordinary tier people. Even though they were far away, they could at least see the enemy's location. King of the Blazing Sun, put down your weapons obediently and accept your death. Our Fidu Scarlet Empire can let the normal subjects of your Blazing Sun Kingdom live, but it will transform the living beings on our side of the fog. Otherwise, we will definitely slaughter the entire city after we break through your territory. Gerard rode on his mount and floated high in the sky, sending a cold voice transmission to Zhou Zhou and the soldiers behind him. Soon, his voice spread to the ears of more than 500 million soldiers and even subjects in the entire Blazing Sun Kingdom. When the soldiers heard this, not only did they not retreat, their eyes became even colder. At this moment, Zhou Zhou also flew into the sky and looked calmly at the Legion commander of the Scarlet Legion, Gerard. I'll give you a chance to put down your weapons and surrender obediently. As long as you're willing to surrender, I can let bygones be bygones and let you become subjects of my Blazing Sun Kingdom. Once you become subjects of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, I can treat you as equals and let you enjoy the benefits that the Blazing Sun Kingdom subjects enjoy now. There was still no movement from the refined flame Scarlet Legion when this was mentioned. The soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, especially the soldiers of the people of foreign races, looked at Zhou Zhou with even more respect, fanaticism, and anticipation. The reason why they were willing to work wholeheartedly for the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Putting aside the reason for the Lord Talent of the peaceful times, the King of the Blazing Sun had always been willing to treat people of foreign races like them equally, or even enemy country subjects. This was one of the important reasons why they were willing to follow the King of the Blazing Sun. If it was another kingdom faction, there was a high chance that they would not do that. There might even be a class system among them and treat them differently. This was not just a guess. Most of the powerful lord factions in the High Continent did this to the subjects of different races in their territory, or even to the subjects of the enemy lord faction. At the same time, Gerard also heard what the King of the Blazing Sun said. He sneered, clearly very disdainful of him. I knew you were one tough cookie. I'll capture you myself later. Let's see if you will still be this insolent. Zhou Zhou's expression became even calmer. The two of them looked at each other. Kill. Kill. The two of them said these words almost at the same time, and the soldiers on both sides roared and rushed towards each other. Soon, both sides exchanged weapons and fought. Zhou Zhou's side had more than 5 times the number of soldiers. However, there were 450 million white silver tier and yellow gold tier recruits among the 500 million soldiers after all. Therefore, while it seemed that Zhou Zhou's soldiers had surrounded all the other party's soldiers, it did not pose much of a threat to the other party. Gerard chuckled when he saw this, and the disdain at the corners of his mouth became even stronger. But in the next second, his expression immediately changed. On the battlefield in front of him, he saw more than 27 million of the 110 million soldiers refined Flame's Scarlet Legion soldiers suddenly changed their attitude and turned to kill their allies beside them. A quarter of the soldiers suddenly rebelling was not a small matter. At this moment, the entire Scarlet Army immediately fell into chaos under the collision of internal and external forces. High up in the sky, Zhou Zhou smiled when he saw this. It was him who ordered the insight defection on the more than 27 million soldiers in the other party's army to suddenly fight among themselves just now. This method was really effective and exciting to use no matter how many times he had used it. What happened? Gerard was shocked when he saw this, but he quickly reacted. He looked at Zhou Zhou coldly. He knew that this must be the other party's method. Soldiers on the periphery continue to block the enemy's soldiers' offensive. Kill the betrayers of our own army without mercy. Gerard immediately ordered decisively. As the order was passed down, Scarlet soldiers who had been instigated by Zhou Zhou's insight defection were beaten up and killed one after another. However, they would also try their best to take down one or more soldiers of the Fog Army before they died. In addition, Zhou Zhou's Blazing Sun Kingdom soldiers were constantly exerting pressure on them from the periphery. A large number of Scarlet Fog soldiers from the refined Flame Scarlet Legion, which was trapped in a pincer attack from both inside and outside, fell on the battlefield one after another. All Scarlet God spirits immediately mobilized to suppress the internal strife. At the same time, destroy the enemy soldiers and reduce the pressure on our side. Gerard gave another order again, seeing that the situation was turning bad. Then, as soon as he finished speaking, he took the lead and rushed out to kill the soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Seeing this, the other Scarlet God spirits also flew over, preparing to help their soldiers defeat the soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. But at this moment, a god spirit burning with the light of the blazing sun suddenly appeared in front of Gerard. He held the fire source shield in his left hand and the divine fire glazed axe in his right. His divine eyes were as dazzling as 2 suns. It was the god of blazing sun and burns, Heros. Let's continue our unfinished battle. This time, no outsiders will interfere in our battle. One of us will definitely die today, Heros said to him with full fighting spirit. He was willing to put his life and death aside even if he was not fighting for the Blazing Sun Kingdom when facing a rare opponent. Crazy, Gerard cursed in his heart. He hated this group of god spirits who walked the path of the solar system's laws. Once they started fighting, they would not care about their lives. Why don't they cherish the god spirit slots that they had painstakingly obtained? Gerard had no intention of fighting the other party at all, wanting nothing but to stay away from this lunatic. However, Heros was clearly targeting him. No matter how he dodged, Heros would always catch up to him immediately and attack him crazily, forcing him to attack. Gerard could only fight him first in this situation. At the same time, The other scarlet god spirit of the void spirit demon race, holding a dark blue ferocious bow, also saw Gerard's current situation. However, he had no intention of interfering. Instead, he decided to continue resolving the predicament on the battlefield. At this moment, Lady Iceflower, Vicky, and the god of the snowfield and White Wolf had already rushed in front of him and blocked his path. "We are your opponent," Zhou Zhou said calmly. Even though the other party was a high-tier deity-level god spirit, Vicky and him were both wearing low-tier divine artifacts. Even if they could not kill the other party, they could still hold the other party back and not let him join the battle. Courting death. This high-tier deity-level intermediate-grade void spirit demon race scarlet god spirit was furious when it saw a mid-tier deity-level elementary-grade god spirit and a low-tier deity-level elementary-grade god spirit trying to stop it. Without thinking, he immediately retreated and pulled away. At the same time, he drew his bow and arrow, preparing to quickly destroy the two god spirits who did not know what was good for them. However, Zhou Zhou was very experienced in combat. Don't let him pull away. It's an archer-type god spirit. Once the other party widens the distance, all of his offensive methods will be greatly enhanced. However, as long as we close the distance between us and the other party, his strength will be halved or even more. Zhou Zhou shouted and took out the White Wolf's tooth to rush over. Vicky followed Zhou Zhou and attacked without hesitation. The two sides immediately fought in the air. At the same time, the other 5 Scarlet God spirits also rushed towards the battlefield below. Among the 5 Scarlet God spirits, 2 were mid-tier deity level and 3 were low-tier deity level. Thick spatial power erupted, forming a spatial passageway with endless suction behind it, directly sucking it into the spatial rift. 3 figures flew out from the blazing Sun Kingdom and charged at the 5 Scarlet God spirits. Among them, Qi Xintian and Guo Xiao each faced a mid-tier deity-level Scarlet God spirit. The 10-directional Martial Emperor, Feng Luo, was facing the low-tier deity-level elementary grade Storm Fist God, Zhao Chengkong. The two sides immediately began to fight. At this scene, the other 2 Scarlet God spirits looked at each other and smiled sinisterly. The other party shouldn't have the combat strength of a god spirit anymore. Then let the 2 of us show these low-level life forms what true slaughter is. One of the low-tier deity-level elementary grade Scarlet God spirits said. The other low-tier deity intermediate grade Scarlet God spirit nodded coldly. In the distance, Zhou Zhou looked at the 2 Scarlet God spirits and turned to look at Bai Yun. "How's the mastery of the military formation?" he asked. "Your Majesty, that low-tier deity-level intermediate-grade military formation, small god Sura myriad spirit army formation, is very difficult. It's also very difficult for me to completely master it for the time being. However, I can still set up this military formation with its military formation treasure, small god Sura sword," Bai Yun said respectfully. Zhou Zhou nodded slightly. Zhou Zhou could tell that Bai Yun was very talented in military formations when she comprehended the Greedy Wolf Howling Moon Array's hero skill, the Greedy Wolf Devouring Arrow, alone. She was not inferior to Wu Xian. She only used a day to set up this low-tier deity-level intermediate-grade small god Sura myriad spirit army formation. It was enough to see her military formation talent. "Go on. You're in charge of dealing with one of these 2 Scarlet God spirits," Zhou Zhou said. "Yes, Your Majesty," Bai Yun said respectfully. Then, she immediately flew out and specially mobilized 100,000 extraordinary tier soldiers from the 500 million strong army and asked them to surround her. These 100,000 extraordinary tier soldiers had all practiced the small god Sura myriad spirit army formation with Bai Yun when she was familiarizing with it today. They also had the energy to successfully set up the array. It was the time for them to attack. Seeing that everyone was here, Bai Yun activated the small god Sura myriad spirit army formation without hesitation. A large amount of silver sword energy emerged from every extraordinary tier soldier and quickly gathered. Right on the heels of that, a huge figure of a mysterious swordsman who was 10,000 meters tall and wearing a silver raincoat, holding a silver divine sword, surrounded by silver sword energy, appeared above the 100,000 extraordinary tier soldiers, enveloping them in his body. It was the spirit of the small god myriad spirit army formation, the god spirit swordsman. It was equivalent to the greedy wolf spirit that appeared when setting up the greedy wolf howling moon array. The next second, this god spirit swordsman raised the sura in his hand and waved it gently at the two scarlet god spirits charging towards the battlefield. Whoosh! A silver translucent sword energy shot out and suddenly disappeared when it flew into the air. Then, it appeared in front of one of the scarlet god spirits in the blink of an eye and instantly severed its arm. The two scarlet god spirits were shocked. At the same time, at the core of the Sura swordsman's formation, Bai Yun held the treasure of the military formation, small god Sura sword, in her hand and calmly took out 1,000 legendary tier hearts of materials. She asked the carving of the small god Sura sword in her hand to quickly absorb them all. After absorbing them all, this small god Sura sword carving emitted a faint silver sword energy light again. Seeing this, Bai Yun controlled the Sura swordsman again without hesitation and released another low-tier deity-level intermediate-grade sword energy at the two scarlet god spirits. The two scarlet god spirits knew how powerful this sword chi was. They hurriedly dodged to the sides, however. This sword chi seemed to have locked onto them. No matter where they flew, this sword chi could immediately turn and fly towards them. They even hid in the interlayer of space, wanting to avoid the sword chi, but it even rushed into the interlayer of space, wanting to kill them. They looked at each other and could feel the trouble with this sword chi. They could only join forces to resist it. After the two gods did their best to block the sword chi, they were about to heave a sigh of relief when they saw another sword chi shoot towards them. Even though the sword chi of this military formation is strong, it's not to the extent that I can't block it. How about this? I'll block the sword chi of this military formation. You go and destroy the main body of the military formation. As long as we destroy the main body of the military formation, they won't be able to release such sword chi attacks again. At that time, we can slaughter the remaining Blazing Sun Kingdom soldiers at will. The low-tier deity-level intermediate-grade Scarlet God spirit quickly calmed down and said, "Okay." The other low-level deity-level Scarlet God spirit also felt that there was no problem. Without hesitation, he held a blue ancient broken blade and flew towards the Sura swordsman. In the sky, Zhou Zhou, who had been observing the battlefield, naturally saw this Scarlet God spirit that wanted to ambush the spirit of the military formation. His expression was calm. With a flip of his right hand, a huge halberd appeared in his hand. The halberd was another loot that Zhou Zhou had obtained from the fog monster when he obtained the Ghost God General Hero Inheritance. The Ghost God Demon Slaying Halberd. Equipment name: Ghost God Demon Slaying Halberd. Equipment grade: Epic Tier Intermediate Grade. Equipment effect 1. Demon Slaying. Demon God Demon Slaying Halberd's lethality to fog monsters increases by 300%. Equipment effect 2. Ghost God Evil Spirit. When the user uses the Ghost God Demon Slaying Halberd, their body will be filled with Ghost God Evil Spirit. Life forms with weak resistance will feel as if they have seen a ghost god in the human world when they see the user. At best, they will feel fear in their hearts, and at worst, they will die from fear. Equipment effect 3. Ghost God Demon Slaying Halberd. After the user obtains the recognition of the Ghost God Demon Slaying Halberd, they will automatically inherit a combat method from the Ghost God. After mastering this combat method, it can greatly increase the combat power of the Ghost God Demon Slaying Halberd. Equipment effect 4. Ghost God on Earth. Sacrifice the Ghost God Demon Slaying Halberd and summon a low-tier deity-level Ghost God to reappear in the world. You will bear the consequences. According to the equipment information, this Ghost God should only attack the fog monsters. It shouldn't attack us. Zhou Zhou looked at the halberd and thought. There was another reason why he was willing to use this halberd without worry. His danger prediction talent and talent intuition lord talent were vaguely reminding him that using this halberd would not cause him any harm. There might even be benefits. Zhou Zhou believed in his two talents, especially the latter. Talents could go wrong, however, it was almost impossible for his lord talent to be wrong. This was his experience as a lord with 29 lord talents. Let me see what a real ghost god looks like, Zhou Zhou said softly. Then, he silently activated the sacrifice in his heart and threw it to the scarlet god spirit that was rushing towards the spirit of the military formation. What is it? The scarlet god spirit quickly discovered the epic tier weapon that was thrown at it. He was very cautious and did not dare to receive the ghost god demon slaying record. Instead, he released an energy ball and shattered it in the air. However, just as he was shattering it, boom! The ghost god demon slaying halberd exploded with a bang, and a large amount of pale white fog spread out. A tall and terrifying figure appeared from the pale white fog and slowly walked towards the scarlet god spirit. When the scarlet god spirit saw the figure in the fog, it suddenly felt fear and a feeling as if it had encountered an old enemy. Who is that? He picked up his ancient blue blade and watched with hostility as the figure walked out of the white fog. What are you doing? Hurry up and destroy the main body of that military formation. In the distance, the scarlet god spirit, which was resisting the sword chi, cursed when it saw that this scarlet god spirit was actually just standing on the spot. However, his voice was ignored by the other party at the moment. His attention was all on the figure that was about to walk out of the pale white fog. Soon, the figure appeared wearing tattered pale white armor. White bones could be vaguely seen through the cracks of the tattered pale white armor. It had 4 white bone heads that protruded from its dinosaur-like mouth and 8 arms. The 8 arms held 8 ancient and tattered weapons, namely a halberd, bell, cauldron, drum, mace, spear, bow, and dagger. It stood in front of the pale white fog, its black eyes looking at the world in front of it. Then, it looked at Zhou Zhou and paused for a moment before nodding respectfully. Then, its gaze swept across Qi Xintian, Guoqiao, Wu Tu, Bai Yun, Feng Luo, and the others. Finally, its gaze landed on the low-tier deity, level elementary grade scarlet god spirit that had shattered the ghost god demon slaying halberd. Demon! Its voice was hoarse. Boom! Its body suddenly disappeared. Boom! Its body suddenly appeared in front of the scarlet god spirit again. You are. Before this scarlet god spirit could finish speaking, the 8 weapons on the ghost god's 8 arms suddenly emitted the light of various divine artifacts. Then, they smashed, stabbed, slashed, and slashed at its body. The scarlet god spirit that was hit by the 8 divine artifacts at the same time fell silent before it could even finish speaking. On the battlefield, all the god spirits fighting, Qi Xintian, Guoqiao, and the others were stunned. One strike, and it killed a low-tier deity-level elementary-grade scarlet god spirit? What kind of joke was this? The aura emitted by the other party was clearly that of a low-tier deity-level elementary-grade god spirit. But how could there be such a strong low-tier deity-level elementary-grade god spirit? Killing experts of the same level looked even easier than killing dogs. In the sky, Zhou Zhou was also shocked by the other party's combat strength. Previously, when he offered sacrifices to the ghost god demon slaying halberd, he only wanted to increase his combat strength by 1 low-tier deity-level elementary-grade god spirit. He seemed to have released a boss from the situation in front of him. Moreover, while the other party seemed to be using 8 broken-looking weapons. If Zhou Zhou did not feel it wrongly, they seemed to be 8 different low-tier deity-level elementary-grade divine artifacts. Moreover, even though the other party's armor was tattered, it was actually also a divine artifact, making it a full set of divine artifacts. Zhou Zhou could be mistaken if it was anything else, however. He had too many divine artifacts and was therefore confident that he would not make a mistake. This ghost god has at least 10 divine artifacts that are compatible with the other party's strength. Zhou Zhou guessed in his heart. He took a deep breath. Then, he looked at the other party's information. Name, territory, soldier type, ghost god, grade, strength level, low-tier deity level elementary grade. Ability overview. A soldier who came from a mysterious training ground. He was born to slaughter scarlet fog monsters. He was born opposing the Crimson Overlord and the fog monsters under his command. He had endless hatred and an almost undying body. Skill? Grade, Scarlet Reaper. Grade, Undead Vengeful Spirit. Grade, Low-tier deity level elementary grade physical immunity. Grade, Low-tier deity level elementary grade elemental immunity. Grade, Low-tier deity level elementary grade soul immunity. Talent, 8-armed ghost deity. Talent, Ghost deity killing spirit. Talent, Fear power. Low-tier deity level elementary grade demon extermination halberd technique. Loyalty. Potential. Prompt. This ghost god is very respectful to you and your lord faction as you are favored by the supreme will. It will not attack you and your lord faction. Zhou Zhou raised his eyebrows. So many question marks? The last time he saw so many question marks was on by he. This guy was clearly only at the low-tier deity level elementary grade, but he actually had so many unexplorable secrets. Moreover, that last notification was worth thinking about. This ghost god soldier type is probably from the supreme will. Zhou Zhou guessed in his heart. At the same time, just as he was guessing in his heart, the situation on the battlefield had also changed greatly. After the ghost god killed the low-tier deity level elementary grade scarlet god spirit, its gaze shifted and landed on the low-tier deity intermediate grade scarlet god spirit that was fighting the Sura swordsman. He did not say a word and flew straight at him. This scarlet god spirit also saw the ghost god rushing towards it. He was immediately shocked and gave up on this place and fled in the direction of Gerard without a second thought. Legion commander, save me, he shouted in panic. However, Gerard only had time to take a look at him before he was dragged into the entangled battle by the battle-crazed Heros. During the battle, a few furious curses from Gerard, such as D***minute and B***starred, could be heard. Seeing this, the Scarlet God Spirit could only rush towards the other Scarlet God Spirit. But at this moment, a pale white skeleton figure appeared in front of him, as if it had teleported. It was the Ghost God. The Scarlet God Spirit was shocked. Then, it turned around and ran without thinking. However, just as it turned around, a Shinra sword chi shot over from afar and slashed at him, who was caught off guard. Half of the Scarlet God Spirit's body drooped outside, and it was almost cut in half. Even so, the aura on his body was already infinitely close to death. When the Ghost God saw the Scarlet God Spirit so close and on the verge of death, it did not choose to attack. Instead, it looked at the Sura swordsman, as if it had seen Bai Yun at the core. Bai Yun was stunned. Then, he immediately understood. She injected 1,000 legendary tier mist cores into the small god sword in her hand again. Then, she controlled the crowd control swordsman Shinra to release another Shinra sword chi to kill this dying Scarlet God Spirit. At this moment, the surging promotion energy immediately surged into Bai Yun's body. Bai Yun almost immediately broke through to the legendary tier and came very close to the legendary tier advanced grade. Not only that, even thousands of the 100,000 extraordinary tier soldiers who formed the small god Sura myriad spirit army formation broke through at this moment, as if they had benefited greatly. A god spirit had died, and it gave such terrifying benefits. In the sky, Zhou Zhou felt his aura and a faint smile appeared on his face. He had also broken through to the epic tier advanced grade. How rare. He had finally broken through. A lord's breakthrough was really 10,000 times harder than ordinary life forms. He complained in his heart. Then, he looked at the battle in front of him. At this moment, 2 of the 7 god spirits of the flame-refining Scarlet Legion had already died. There were only 2 high-tier deity-level Scarlet God Spirits, 2 mid-tier deity-level Scarlet God Spirits, and 1 low-tier deity-level Scarlet God Spirit left. Among them, the 10-directional Martial Emperor, Feng Luo, was using his legendary tier elementary grade body to fight against the low-tier deity-level Tsunami Fist God, Zhao Chengkong. When Zhou Zhou looked over, he was stunned to discover that the 2 of them were actually fighting to the death. Even though Zhao Qingkong had a certain advantage, at this moment, Feng Luo seemed to have fallen into a state of epiphany. During the battle with the other party, his improvement could be said to be extremely fast, and he was gradually catching up to the other party. Zhou Zhou wanted to ask Bai Yun, who had free time, to help him. However, Zhou Zhou dismissed this idea in the current situation. This opportunity seemed to be a rare opportunity for Feng Luo to increase his strength. Perhaps it was the best choice for the other party if he did not interfere. He looked at the other battlefields. Heros and Gerard were fighting to the death. Even though Heros had a divine artifact on him, Gerard's own strength as a high-tier deity-level intermediate grade and a high-tier deity-level divine artifact basically eliminated the difference in combat strength between them. The other two god spirits, Zhe Wu and Vicky, fought another high-tier deity level with their divine artifacts. Fortunately, I temporarily lent Vicky another low-tier deity level elementary grade divine artifact before I came. Otherwise, he might really not be able to stop him with the low-tier deity level elementary grade divine artifact I rewarded him with previously. Zhou Zhou thought. Then, he looked at Qi Xintian and Guo Xiao, and his expression became solemn. Unlike the others, Qi Xintian and Guo Xiao were only legendary tier experts now, and the opponents they faced were all mid-tier deity-level scarlet monsters. The difference in strength between the two sides was not small. Even though they had a history of killing gods before, that was only an enemy who had just entered the low-tier deity-level elementary grade. Now, even if they advanced from the previous epic tier to the legendary tier, the difference in strength was still too great when facing a mid-tier deity-level scarlet god spirit who was even stronger and more experienced in combat. If not for the fact that Zhou Zhou had used the Ice Demon Sacrificial Robe to set up a low-tier deity-level elementary grade defense law skill on the two of them, they would have been in a dire situation already. But even so, Qi Xintian was already showing signs of defeat. It was only a matter of time before they lost. Guo Xiao was in an even worse state. He was directly beaten to death without becoming stiff, which was a fake death state. For the next period of time, if they could not defeat that mid-tier deity-level scarlet god spirit and let Guo Xiao bathe in the divine blood, he would really die completely after his death. When the time comes, he could only use the Great Resurrection spell to help the other party. Bai Yun and Your Excellency the Ghost God, can you help my subordinate? Zhou Zhou sent voice transmissions to Bai Yun and the Ghost God while pointing in the direction of Qi Xintian. Bai Yun controlled the small God Sura Myriad Spirit Army formation to attack Qi Xintian without hesitation. The Ghost God took a look and rushed towards Qi Xintian. Guo Xiao saw this scene. Zhou Zhou smiled, then his expression became solemn. He raised his right hand, and as the chaotic origin energy in his body continuously surged out, a chaotic spear finally condensed after condensing a total of 70% of the chaotic origin energy. It was the Chaos Flying Spear technique. Go! Zhou Zhou threw it forcefully, and the Chaos Flying Spear shot towards the mid-tier deity-level Scarlet God Spirit that Qi Xintian was fighting. It was extremely fast and arrived in front of the Scarlet God Spirit in the blink of an eye. Qi Xintian, who had long received His Majesty's voice transmission, retreated dozens of kilometers and made way. The Scarlet God Spirit also discovered the Chaos Flying Spear. He felt a sense of threat. He instinctively wanted to dodge without thinking. But at this moment, Guo Xiao, use your full strength. You can use the dragon-slaying will? Zhou Zhou shouted. Ha 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 ha. Guo Xiao, who had entered a fake death state, immediately had bloodshot eyes when he heard this. I'm really so aggrieved. His suppressed voice suddenly became hearty. Bang, 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 bang. The aura on his body suddenly erupted. Under the dumbfounded gaze of the other party's Scarlet God Spirit, Guo Xiao's strength seemed to have no upper limit as it quickly increased. Legendary tier advanced grade. Low tier deity level elementary grade. Low tier deity level intermediate grade. Mid-tier deity level elementary grade. Mid-tier deity level intermediate grade. When Guo Xiao's strength reached the mid-tier deity level intermediate grade, his explosive strength slowly stopped. Then, he looked up at the Scarlet God Spirit with its blood-red eyes. Did you have a good time fighting? The next second, he brazenly threw a law skill level flying axe attack. Facing the flying axe that arrived in an instant, the Scarlet God Spirit's head was cut off before it could react. Even so, he was not dead either. The flesh on his severed neck kept rolling, as if he was going to regrow his severed head. At this moment, Guo Xiao flew over and grabbed the flying chaos flying spear. Then, he pierced through the other party's body and grabbed his body. Then, under the shocked gazes of all the soldiers, he forcefully tore it into two. This mid-tier deity-level scarlet god spirit that had previously suppressed Guo Xiao died immediately. Guo Xiao was not done yet. Instead, he poured his divine blood on his injured body. Not only did Guo Xiao's injuries quickly recover after bathing in the divine blood, even the aura on his body began to increase again. Mid-tier deity-level advanced grade. High-tier deity-level elementary grade. When his aura reached the high-tier deity-level elementary grade, even the 3 high-tier deity levels who were fighting fiercely on the field were attracted. They looked at Guo Xiao in surprise. When did another high-tier deity level appear on the battlefield? In the sky, when Zhou Zhou saw that Guo Xiao's strength had reached the high-tier deity level elementary grade, a smile appeared on his face. Even though Guo Xiao's current strength was only temporarily enhanced by the dragon-slaying will, it was enough to determine the outcome of this battle. The subsequent battle was not beyond Zhou Zhou's expectations. With the addition of Guo Xiao, a high-tier deity-level elementary grade combatant who had suddenly appeared, they first destroyed the mid-tier deity-level elementary grade scarlet god spirits that Qi Xintian and the others were facing. Then, he went to support Vicky and Zhe Wu and joined forces to kill the high-tier deity-level creature they were facing. In the end, he killed Gerard with the unwilling Heros. Then, they arrived around Feng Luo and surrounded him and Zhao Qingkong. They watched as the helpless Zhao Qingkong was forcefully beaten to death by Feng Luo, who had made a huge advancement in martial arts. At this point, the god spirits on the refined flame Scarlet Legion side had already been completely destroyed. The remaining Scarlet Legion monsters were all below the legendary tier. To Zhou Zhou's soldiers, it was only a matter of time before they were destroyed. Zhou Zhou could basically declare victory in this battle.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.